Buongiorno a tutti, oggi vi presento un personaggio che io ammiro tantissimo, Terry Cooper dal Texas. Hi Terry, è un pirografista che io ammiro tantissimo, ha una capacità incredibile di rendere le sfumature, di rendere le immagini in maniera veramente meravigliosa, e quindi gli faccio i complimenti perché è veramente bravo. Giusto per darvi un'idea, questo è uno dei suoi lavori degli aironi che ha pubblicato recentemente su Facebook, e quindi il livello del lavoro, insomma, come vedete, è decisamente molto molto buono. Terry, la prima cosa che ti chiedo è raccontaci qualcosa di te, da dove sei, come hai cominciato con la pirografia e come ti sei mosso con la pirografia in questi anni.
Hello, my name is Terry Cooper. I'm retired now. I was a fireman for 31 years. I got into pyrography when I was injured. I injured my hips and back, and I needed something to do while I was laid up. So this would be 12 years ago when I first started doing pyrography. I knew nothing about, never touched it before. Didn't know anybody that did it. Didn't even know groups like this existed at the time. So I was just getting into it. When I do have a background in art. When I was a little kid, my mom saw that I had a little bit of talent, so she helped to develop that. Sent me to a couple drawing classes and stuff, and painting classes. And then through the years, I did a little painting and drawing off and on. But painting got boring, drawing got boring, but pyrography is so challenging, it never gets boring. It's always a challenge. It's you're always trying to. Well, I'm always trying to learn something different, trying to change my technique and style and stuff like that to work with whatever picture I'm trying to draw at the time. So that gives me that. So 12 years ago, I got into pyrography and I started doing it. And I bought a cheap set that I still have, the Walnut Hollow Versatool. It's adjustable temperature. And I did my shading like pencil drawing, which worked fine. But once I got into these groups, these pyrography groups, I noticed some people's artwork was a little bit different, and I would try to look at everyone's art and try to figure out what I liked about each pyrography, each wood burning that I saw, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. So I would try to pick it apart and figure out what they did. How can I do that technique? So I would adjust my technique to try to mimic what they did. So that's how I learned
Me too.
wood burn. Yes.
Me too. Ok,
Yep.
thank you. Ok, grazie Terry. La seconda cosa che volevo domandarti è riguardo ai cosa usi tu per pirografare, quindi le punte che usi, il tipo di legno che preferisci, altri materiali che tu sei solito usare per produrre i tuoi capolavori.
The tools I use for pyrography, I use the Walnut Hollow Versatool, which I've used for 12 years. At first, I used only two tips. They're both, to describe it, like a round tip. One was smaller, one was bigger, And that's all I used because it was comfortable for me because it was like using a pencil. I noticed that other people were using wire tips, which I didn't have the money for that. So I learned to use what I had. Eventually, only about 2 years ago, I saw that people were getting very good results with a flatter type of tip, a shading tip. I've never used the flat tip ever. I didn't like it. It wasn't comfortable. I didn't like the shape of it. So the walnut hollow shading tip is kind of odd shaped. So what I did is I used a grinder and a file, and I filed the tip down to a comfortable size that I could personally use. And
Can you show
sort
us?
of like a,
Can you,
okay. The two tips that I used were the, I don't know if you can see them here. They're round tips, and they mimicked
I can't
using.
see it.
Oh, you can't see them?
No. Near your okay, near your face. Thank you.
Okay, near my face. Okay, you got it. You want me to start over?
Yes.
Okay. The two tips I first started using, and I still use, is these. They're a maxi and a mini tip, and they mimic using a pencil. That was what I was comfortable with, so that's what I used. Later on, I developed my own tip. It was more rounded, and that works okay on certain backgrounds. Hang on just a second. I dropped one. This is the tip that I usually use for shading purposes. I don't like it completely oval. I've got a little bit of a point, but not too much point. That way I can get some detail in there, and it helps shade. And I use that shading tip in conjunction with the pencil type of tips to work out my shading. And sometimes I'll alternate. I'll use the shading tip first. Sometimes I use the round tips first, and then go back over it and smooth it out. To get a smooth shading, the technique I use is, I think most people do, is just put different layers of heat. Start low and build up high. I've tried it the other way around, and it usually messes up, and I wish I hadn't. So start low and just keep building up, making it darker. You get, I call them these little burn spots where it burns a little hotter due to the grain being a little softer in the wood. So to fix that, sometimes I'll use a bit of sandpaper just to lighten that little area up, or sometimes I'll use an X-Acto knife, kind of scrape away a little bit, and I'll also take the round tip and I'll go and try to make it more even. It takes a lot of work, but it looks better in the long run. One of the other tools I use quite significantly, sandpaper. I actually use sandpaper a lot because I'm never really satisfied with what I do at first. So I'll make something and then I won't be happy with it. What I've got in my mind, how I see the finished product. So sometimes I lighten it up, but later on I might darken it up again, to make everything balanced. So I use sandpaper quite a bit. I use an X-Acto knife a lot. So I kind of do almost like a scratch board technique for hair and stuff like that, and scratch it out. So, and highlights also. I'll use sandpaper to highlight something if it's gotten a little bit too dark. But that's generally what I use.
Ok. La prossima domanda che voglio farti è come scegli i tuoi soggetti, come scegli i tuoi soggetti, se sono disegni che produci tu, se modifichi delle cose che trovi, che hai trovato in giro che ti hanno ispirato, o se sono fotografie che scatti tu o cose di questo genere.
The way I choose a subject is usually by photographs. Now sometimes people want me to do a portrait, so I don't have a whole lot of choice in that. Sometimes the portraits are great. Sometimes, the photographs are not so good. So we all know how that goes.
I know.
You just do the best with what you have.
Yes.
But when I'm doing them for myself, I'll see a picture sometimes. I'll just come across a picture on the internet of say, a person, and the contrast is awesome. I like a lot of contrast in my work. So I'll see this and the balance be right, everything be just perfect, and it's interesting to me. I like something interesting and something that I haven't seen done much. So I always try to do something a little different. So I'll choose pictures that I just see. Sometimes it's just imagination, I did one that was an eagle fighting a snake, and that was all my imagination. That's something I had thought about for years, and I finally, drew it out. So sometimes I use photographs. Sometimes I do some photograph and some imagination. I mix it. But I also there's a few paintings I've done over the years that I wanted to see what they would look like as a wood burning, and do change up the style a little bit. So I've done that. The one of the herons, that was a painting I did years ago, many years ago, 30, 40 years ago. So I see it every day, and I've always liked that picture. Now that I got the idea from a picture out of a photograph out of a wildlife book, and I changed it. It was just a photo of some egrets or cranes or whatever they were, just running through a marsh. And I got the idea, why don't I make it more interesting by making it a dark, stormy time? And so I added the dark storm clouds. I added the lightning. The lightning wasn't in there. That's all my stuff. So I changed it up, and I put the shadow down there. Didn't have a shadow. And that's supposed to, be like a lightning flashing overhead, So I'm
really wonderful.
What's that?
It's really wonderful.
Oh, thank you. So I change. I'll take a picture if it's for myself, and I'll just adjust it to my imagination, what I would like it to be, and I'll change the balance. I'll change shadows and stuff like that. If it's a photograph of a person for a commission work, I just stick to the basic deal. And I try to do on my portraits is I try to bring them to life. I try to find out their personality, put a little twinkle in their eye if they're witty or something like that. Put a little small grin on their face, something like. Even if they don't have it in the photograph, I try to alter the face to do that.
Ok. Un'altra domanda che volevo farti, che ci tengo molto a questa domanda, è: secondo te cos'è che è veramente importante per rendere veramente bella una pirografia? Cioè, cosa sono le cose che tu cerchi di curare in particolare e che sai che se quelle cose lì le metti a posto, la pirografia diventa veramente bella, veramente curata e in grado di colpire l'occhio di chi guarda?
So what I think makes a pirography beautiful and interesting, several things, and it all goes back to just art in general, paintings and anything, any kind of medium. You have to have a good balance. You have to have an interesting subject matter. Contrasts always makes it more interesting. It also makes it more three-dimensional, more realistic if you have a little bit more contrast in there. One thing I've learned over the years is not to outline the figure or whatever you do. Not to put too much of an outline, because in real life you don't have an outline. So I try to use contrast instead to bring out a shape. If I want something to look lighter in color, whiter in color, without adding pencils, I make the area next to that lighter area as dark as I can. Then it makes the lighter areas seem almost white when actually it's not. So like in the Heron's book picture, the lightning, I made it real dark around the lightning to make the lightning seem lighter. It's, there's no white color pencil or anything. So contrast, you use it for interest, to build interest in there. Of course, the subject matter, if you're trying to come up with something, it needs to be in an interesting pose. Like I said, the balance of the overall picture needs to be well balanced. I try to bring your eye around the picture, so you're not just stuck in one area. So I try to make the image flow around so that you're looking at everything, but you're coming back to the same area. If that makes any sense.
Ok. Ok Terry, abbiamo finito, io ti ringrazio della tua disponibilità, sei stato molto gentile e i complimenti ancora, my compliments per i tuoi lavori e sono felice di averti avuto come ospite, di averti conosciuto, nice to meet you. E io ti saluto e happy Easter to the next interview.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye
Ciao.
bye.